Welcome back, students. This is the sixth video on chapter 7 evolution. In this module, we'll be discussing with the Urey and Miller's experiment. So here it was two scientists, that is Harold C. Urey and Stanley L. Miller, who was working in the laboratory of Harold C. Urey at the University of Chicago. These two scientists, students, they were inspired by the idea of chemical evolution and they strongly supported this theory of Oparin and Haldane. So, after around 30 years of this chemical evolution theory given by Oparin and Haldane, the two scientists, they wondered about the kind of reactions that could have occurred in that reducing atmosphere, and they thought of testing that hypothesis. Okay, so that is why what they did in 1953, they designed an apparatus which simulated the prebiotic conditions. So what do you mean by this? Simulated means they created the similar conditions which were present in the primitive atmosphere. Okay, so let us see what was the experiment which was performed by them. Now this apparatus was called as the spark discharge apparatus, which was nothing but a closed system of glass, completely made up of glass. Okay, so one by one, if you look at, it consisted of a spark discharge glass chamber. So there was a glass chamber here. It was fitted with two tungsten electrodes. Then they had taken a round flask here consisting of boiling water. There was a side tube connected to the vacuum pump. Then there was a U-shaped trap that was to collect the liquid, finally what they got. And then there was a cooling jacket or a condenser. Okay, let us see what was the experiment performed. So first they evacuated, that is they completely made it empty. That whole apparatus was completely emptied and it was sterilized. It was made sterile. Why? So that no dust particles or no microorganisms were present in that apparatus. Okay. Then water was taken in that flask. It was half filled or partially filled, and that water was kept for boiling. Then in that glass chamber, mixture of methane, ammonia and hydrogen was taken in the ratio 1:2:2. So which were the gases taken there? It was methane, ammonia and hydrogen. So you may ask me why these gases were itself taken. Why not any other chemical compounds? So if you remember the theory of chemical evolution, there according to Oparin and Haldane, what did the prebiotic atmosphere consist of? It mainly consisted, or the first formed chemicals were ammonia, methane and hydrogen. Yes, students. Along with that, water was present in its vapor form, right? So as I told you here, they were simulating the primitive atmosphere. They were creating the similar conditions in the laboratory. So what they have to take? They took those chemicals which were formed initially, right? Then water was kept for boiling. Why? To vaporize it, because initially water was present in its vapor form, right? There was no liquid water. Then slowly you could see that as the temperature went on decreasing, that water vapor it condensed into the water droplets and it formed the oceans, right? So in that oceans, what was there? we could see the presence of all those chemical compounds. So remember, that was called as the soup, yes, or dilute soap. So these conditions now, what is there? The chemicals they have taken, chemical compounds, they have kept water for boiling, so that means they have increased the temperature. So this simulated the ocean, yes. So this was the similar condition what was present in the water bodies at that time, right? So now this water vapor and all those gases what they had taken, it was made to circulate through a continuous electrical discharge, or all those were exposed to a continuous electrical discharge. So why this electrical discharge? Why the tungsten electrodes were used there? Because to simulate the lightning. So remember, during those times, for any chemical reactions to take place, where did they get the energy from? It was mainly by the lightnings or by volcanic eruptions or by solar energy, right? So to simulate lightning, the tungsten electrodes were used. Okay, so now this process was continued for several days. That is, the water was continuously boiled, then the gases were mixed there. So this process, then electric discharge was provided. All this continued for several days, and those gases now they started to react. They were allowed to react in that glass chamber, right? So now this mixture, whatever that mixture was present now, that is the water vapor along with the steam along with those gases, it passed through the condenser where it now liquefied. Okay, so in the condenser or in the cooling jacket, here in the cooling jacket, that hot mixture of gases and the water vapor, it condensed and formed the droplets. So it liquefied, and that liquefied mixture now was here collected in this trap. Okay, so then it was analyzed. Okay, so now let us see what were the observations made by this experiment. So the trapped product, whatever they got, it was analyzed, and it was found that a series of simple organic compounds were formed. So for their surprise, they could see simple organic compounds like amino acids, sugars, fatty acids were formed inside that trap. So what is the significance of this? What did they come to know by this experiment? So here, using the spark discharge experiment, they could see the formation of the simple organic compounds by recreating the similar primitive atmospheric conditions. Yes, so they could see that, yes, they could prove that the primitive earth gave rise to the simple organic compounds. So students, what was the inference of this experiment? So this experiment, it provided a vital proof that organic compounds, which are nothing but the building blocks, essential building materials of life, from where are they obtained? They are obtained from the simple chemicals itself, which were present in the primitive atmosphere, right? So you know, they used simple chemicals like methane, ammonia and hydrogen, and by those chemicals they could get amino acids and sugars, right? So they could prove that it was these simple chemicals itself which gave rise to this organic molecules. So hence they supported and experimentally they proved the chemical evolution of life. Yes, so by this experiment, students, half of the mystery was solved. What mystery? The mystery of origin of life was solved. Okay, so I hope you have understood the concept. And remember children, this Stanley Miller's experiment has appeared in many years, that is in the board exams for 5 marks. It has been the most expected question for 5 marks. Most of the time only the apparatus diagram has been asked, and also many a times the whole of the concept, that is the experiment, has been asked. Okay, so study well. Thank you. We'll continue the further concept, the next concept, that is evolution of life forms, a theory, in our next module. Thank you once again.